When you look in the mirror, what do you really see? Is it just your reflection staring back? Or do you notice the quiet doubts, the fine lines that whisper stories, the silent comparisons to a younger version of yourself? Maybe you glance quickly and look away, thinking, that can't be beautiful. But here's the truth most women never hear loud enough. The mirror only shows skin. It doesn't show the strength you carry, the life you've lived, or the grace that has quietly replaced the chaos. It doesn't show the moments you stayed when it was easier to leave, the times you smiled when life gave you every reason not to. And it certainly doesn't show how others see you, because what the mirror reflects is nothing compared to what your presence radiates. You see, beauty isn't a number. It's not in the curve of your waist or the color of your hair. Beauty is presence. It's energy. It's the kind of woman who walks into a room and changes the atmosphere without saying a word. And that kind of beauty only comes with time, only comes with you, because you've evolved. And no matter how much the world tries to convince you that youth is the only measure of worth, there is a silent, undeniable power in the way a grown woman carries herself. It's not loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't need approval. And yet, people notice. So many women lose themselves chasing who they used to be, never realizing that who they've become is even more captivating. The world has taught you to look back, to measure your value by the tightness of your skin or the sparkle in your eyes. But those who truly see you, who feel you, they know. Your real glow isn't on your face. It's in your spirit. It's in how you listen, how you move, how you love without fear now, because you've learned what matters and what doesn't. That kind of woman, that's the kind that makes people stop and think she's beautiful. Even if you don't think so, you're not the same woman you were 10 or 20 years ago, and that's a good thing. You're deeper. You're wiser. You've walked through pain, through heartbreak, through doubt, and you're still standing. That's not just resilience. That's elegance. And elegance never fades. It evolves. Just because you don't dress like the 20-somethings on social media or wear the latest trends doesn't mean you're invisible. In fact, many women your age are the ones quietly commanding the most respect, admiration, and attention. Not because they scream for it, but because they embody it. Don't let the world's obsession with youth trick you into thinking your beauty has an expiration date. It doesn't. The only thing that expires is the belief that you need to look a certain way to feel valuable. You were not born to shrink yourself as the years pass. You were born to rise, to own every chapter, to walk into each room with the quiet knowing that you are enough, no matter what the mirror says today. And if you're still doubting whether this applies to you, let this be the moment you start seeing yourself the way others already do. The soft wisdom in your voice, the calm in your eyes, the quiet strength in your presence. These are not flaws or signs of aging. These are the markings of a woman who's lived, and that is rare and breathtaking. So stay with this message, because if you've ever wondered whether you're still beautiful, the answer isn't just yes. It's always been yes. You just need to remember what beauty truly looks like when it's built, not borrowed. This is your reminder. The mirror may show your face, but it can never measure your essence. That's something only you can reclaim. And once you do, the world will follow. Because good looking isn't just something you are. It's something you own. What makes you captivating isn't just how you look. It's how you carry what you've lived through. The way you enter a room without needing to be seen, yet still turn heads. The way you speak with quiet certainty instead of loud opinions. That's confidence. And confidence is the most irresistible quality of all. It can't be faked, borrowed, or worn. It comes from knowing who you are without needing anyone else to validate it. And if you've reached a stage in life where you no longer feel the urge to please everyone, to shrink yourself, or to chase approval, you've already become the kind of woman people admire from a distance and respect up close. Real beauty doesn't shout. It whispers. And the woman who is sure of herself doesn't need to compete. She doesn't compare. She knows that comparison is the thief of peace, and she's no longer interested in trading her serenity for anyone else's standards. That quiet confidence radiates through everything you do, from the way you sit, to the way you listen, to the way you carry your silence with power. The world notices it, even if you don't. And the more you trust it, the more undeniable it becomes. You don't need a crowd to feel worthy. You don't need constant compliments to feel seen. You've stopped chasing attention because you've learned the difference between being looked at and being truly valued. One is temporary, the other is timeless. And the moment a woman begins to recognize her own worth without needing it reflected in someone else's eyes, that's when she becomes magnetic. Because people are drawn to what they can't quite define, but can deeply feel. And your energy, it's not loud, but it lingers. It stays in the room long after you leave. That's not just beauty, that's power. You've probably spent years believing that your beauty was something to maintain or preserve, as if aging would steal it from you. But here's the truth that no one says loudly enough. Age doesn't steal your beauty. It reveals the parts of you that were always the most beautiful to begin with. Your strength, your grace, your peace, your clarity. These are the qualities that don't fade. They grow. And every line on your face, every change in your body is proof that you've been through something and came out stronger. That's not something to hide. That's something to wear with pride. Think of the women you've admired in your life. The ones who made you stop and think, I want to be like her someday. Were they chasing youth? Or were they embodying something deeper? Something you can't buy or wear or filter? That's the kind of beauty you're stepping into now. And it doesn't come from creams or trends. It comes from letting go of who you thought you had to be and stepping fully into who you really are. And yes, there will be days when doubt creeps in. Days when you catch a glimpse in the mirror and think, am I still enough? But those thoughts are not the truth. They're echoes of a culture that fears aging instead of respecting it. You don't need to believe those voices anymore. You've already outgrown them. Because when you wake up each day knowing your value doesn't depend on your reflection, your shape, or your age, that's when real beauty becomes permanent. It lives in your posture, your voice, your choices. This is the reward no one told you was coming. After years of wondering if you were pretty enough, thin enough, young enough, you've arrived at a place where the most powerful question isn't, am I still beautiful? But why did I ever doubt it? Because beauty that depends on time will always run out. But beauty that grows with time, that lasts forever. And the more you embrace that truth, the more your confidence becomes unshakable. Not because the world finally sees you, but because you do. So carry yourself with the knowledge that you are not here to compete with younger versions of yourself. You are here to evolve, to deepen, to shine in ways that youth hasn't even begun to understand. Confidence is not the absence of fear or insecurity. It's the choice to rise above them. And every day you choose to show up with dignity, strength, and self-respect, you remind the world that beauty is not defined by age. It's defined by presence. And your presence is powerful. You don't need to look younger to be stunning. You just need to look inward and see what's been there all along. Because the kind of woman who has lived, loved, lost, grown, and still rises, that's the woman who doesn't just walk into a room. She owns it, without trying, without noise, without needing anyone to say a word. People may forget your name, your outfit, or the details of your face, but they will never forget how you made them feel. That's the kind of beauty that lives beyond the surface. And you, whether you realize it or not, have reached the place where your very presence carries something most people spend their whole lives searching for. Wisdom. Not just knowledge, not just experience, but a calm, grounded, undeniable wisdom that softens your voice and sharpens your eyes. You don't have to try to be interesting. You are interesting, because life has shaped you. And now, your story lives in every glance, every word, every pause. That kind of beauty cannot be imitated, it cannot be rushed, and it certainly cannot be replaced. There's something about a woman who has seen seasons come and go, who has loved deeply and lost gracefully, who has fallen apart and rebuilt herself with quiet courage. That woman becomes a mirror for others, a reminder of what it means to survive and still choose softness. People are drawn to you not because of your past, but because of how you carry it. With dignity, with humility, with a quiet strength that makes others feel safe in your presence. You don't demand attention. But when you speak, people listen. Not because you raise your voice, but because your voice carries the weight of truth. Your eyes tell a story no filter ever could. There's a depth there, a knowing. You've learned when to speak and when to stay silent, when to fight and when to let go. You've mastered the art of patience, not because life was easy, but because you were forged in the fire of difficulty, and now that fire doesn't burn you, it fuels you. It lights the room when you walk in, even if you don't realize it. What's remarkable is that you've reached this depth quietly. You didn't need applause. You didn't ask for recognition. You just kept showing up, kept growing, kept healing. And that growth, the invisible work you've done inside, is now visible in the way you hold yourself, in the way you set boundaries without guilt, in the way you choose peace over drama. That kind of maturity is breathtaking. It doesn't sparkle like youth. It glows with something much deeper, self-respect. And here's the truth. No one tells you. There are people watching you right now, admiring the way you move through the world. Maybe it's a younger woman wondering how to carry herself with more grace. Maybe it's someone your own age who's still learning how to let go of comparison. You are setting the standard, not by trying to impress anyone, but by simply being true to yourself. That authenticity is what makes you unforgettable. You've earned your softness. It's not weakness, it's restraint. It's the strength to be gentle in a world that pushed you to harden. It's the decision to lead with empathy when you could have led with ego. Your kindness isn't naive, it's layered. It's a conscious choice that says, I know what pain feels like, so I won't be the reason someone else feels it. That kind of character is rare, and rare is beautiful. You've stopped trying to fit into someone else's mold. You're not shrinking yourself to fit into roles that were never meant for you. Instead, you've become the woman who creates her own space and fills it completely. You're not waiting to be chosen anymore. You've chosen yourself. And that choice, the decision to stand fully in your truth, is what turns ordinary women into extraordinary forces. Your value doesn't come from how youthful you look. It comes from how powerfully you live. It comes from the way you carry pain with grace, speak with wisdom, love without desperation, and walk without fear. That's what captivates. That's what leaves a mark. And the older you get, the more these qualities deepen. You don't lose beauty, you uncover more of it. Layers you didn't even know you had until now. Let the world chase temporary things. Let them glorify what fades. You are built on something unshakable. Character, integrity, soul. That doesn't wrinkle. That doesn't weaken. It only grows stronger. So when you look at yourself, look deeper. See past the surface. See the woman who has walked through fire and still holds water in her hands. See the woman who has cried in silence and still speaks with hope. See the woman who gave up perfection to become real. That's not just beauty, that's legacy. And the most beautiful thing about legacy is this. It's not something you leave behind. It's something you carry with you every day in how you show up, in how you love, in how you choose to keep becoming the woman you were always meant to be. You're not finished. You're just entering your prime, not in the eyes of a culture obsessed with youth, but in the light of your own becoming. And that is the kind of beauty the world needs more of. Not just to admire, but to learn from. There's a quiet power in a woman who no longer feels the need to explain herself. A woman who doesn't rush to defend her choices, who doesn't shrink herself to make others more comfortable. She's moved past needing to be liked. She's focused on being aligned with her truth, her peace, her worth. That is the essence of true beauty. It's not about the shape of your body or the smoothness of your skin. It's about the energy you carry, the dignity in your posture, the authority in your stillness. That's what people feel when you walk into a room. Not your age, but your presence. You no longer follow trends because you become timeless. You don't dress to impress. You dress to express. Your style is not about the brand name on the label. It's about the way your clothing reflects who you are without saying a word. There's elegance in that. Confidence. And when you dress with intention, not for attention, the world pays attention anyway. Because self-expression is magnetic. When you stop seeking permission to be who you are, you naturally become unforgettable. You've outgrown the noise. You don't need to keep up, show off, or prove your worth through status or appearance. You've learned that peace is the highest currency, and protecting it is your priority now. That's why you radiate a different kind of beauty, one that doesn't compete, one that doesn't ask for validation, one that simply is. And in a world chasing the next big thing, the woman who is rooted in herself becomes the most powerful presence in the room. You don't need a spotlight, you are the light. Not because you're trying to shine, but because you've stopped dimming yourself. You've stopped apologizing for taking up space, for having standards, for saying no without guilt. That's what true beauty looks like. It's not about being passive. It's about being intentional. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that no one else can decide it for you. You've learned the art of boundaries, not as walls to keep people out, but as doors that protect your peace. And the way you set those boundaries, with grace, not aggression, is what sets you apart. There's power in a woman who can be soft and firm at the same time, who can hold space for others without losing herself in the process. That balance is rare, and rare is always attractive. There is no desperation in you anymore, no hunger for approval. You've been there, you've done that. You've exhausted yourself trying to please everyone, only to realize that your peace was the highest form of success all along. And now, instead of begging for attention, you command it. Without trying, without needing to. Because there's something about a woman who knows herself fully, honestly, unapologetically, that makes others lean in. That kind of woman doesn't have to chase anything. Everything finds its way to her. And maybe you don't hear this enough, but the way you carry yourself, the calm, the clarity, the grounded elegance, it inspires others. Even the ones who never say it out loud, especially the ones who silently admire how you've bloomed without asking for permission. You are proof that a woman becomes more beautiful when she stops trying to be what she's told and starts becoming everything she is. You don't need to look like anyone else. You were never meant to. Your power lies in your authenticity. Your beauty lies in your truth. And every wrinkle, every silver strand, every curve and change, those are not things to hide. They're evidence. Proof that you've lived. That you've laughed hard, cried deeply, loved fearlessly, and survived gracefully. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to be proud of. You're not disappearing, you're evolving into someone who no longer tolerates the shallow, who seeks depth over decoration, who values substance over show. You don't need the world to call you beautiful for you to feel it. You've learned to see it in yourself. And that shift from external validation to internal knowing is what makes you unstoppable. So let them underestimate you. Let them assume your time has passed. Let them wonder how you shine so brightly without trying. Because you've already won the most important battle, the one inside. You've made peace with your past, power with your presence, and purpose with your path. And now the world doesn't define your worth. You do. Quietly, boldly, completely. That's what makes you a good-looking woman. Not the reflection in the mirror, but the radiance of a life fully lived, fully owned, and fully loved from within. You are not fading. You are becoming. And that becoming, it's the most beautiful thing of all. There's something profoundly beautiful about a woman who has stopped asking for permission to exist. She no longer waits for affirmation to feel worthy. She doesn't rely on outside opinions to determine her value. She has reclaimed herself, fully, completely, unapologetically. And that reclamation, that return to self, is what makes her glow. Not in a way that demands attention, but in a way that commands quiet admiration. She knows who she is, and more importantly, she knows who she is not. And that clarity, that self-awareness is magnetic. The world has tried to convince you that youth is the peak, that beauty has a deadline, but you are living proof that the opposite is true. The older you get, the more grounded you become, the more focused you become. You've stopped scattering your energy trying to please everyone. Now, you choose where your time goes. You decide who deserves your attention. And in doing so, you've elevated yourself without ever needing to be elevated by others. That is real growth. That is real beauty. You have become selective, not because you think you're better, but because you've learned the cost of giving too much to the wrong things. You no longer chase chaos. You no longer tolerate half love, half truths, or half effort. You've learned that anything less than peace is too expensive. And the moment a woman protects her peace, her whole aura shifts. She becomes untouchable, not because she's cold, but because she's clear. And in a world full of noise, that clarity is captivating. You've earned your standards. They didn't come from ego. They came from experience, from being overlooked, underestimated, or taken for granted. But instead of becoming bitter, you became better. You sharpened your vision. You softened your heart without letting it break. You became a woman who knows what she wants, and more importantly, knows what she will never settle for again. That line you've drawn in the sand, that's not attitude. That's alignment. And it's part of what makes you radiate. You no longer walk into rooms hoping to be seen. You walk in knowing that your presence speaks for itself. You don't dress to impress. You dress to reflect. You don't speak to fill silence. You speak to add value. And that intentionality is rare. It's powerful. It sets you apart in ways makeup and fashion never could. You've cultivated something deeper than appearance. You've developed presence. And presence never fades. You've become a lighthouse, not a spotlight. You don't shine to be admired. You shine to guide, to remind others what it looks like to live with dignity, self-respect, and quiet strength. There are women watching you, even if they don't say it out loud. Learning from your example. Noticing how you carry yourself with grace under pressure. How you keep your head high when life tries to bend you. How you've learned to pause instead of panic, to breathe instead of break. You've stopped waiting for the world to make space for you. You've made your own. And that space? It's sacred. It's filled with lessons, boundaries, forgiveness, and healing. You've chosen growth over comfort, truth over popularity, and inner peace over external praise. That's the kind of woman who stands out, not because she tries to, but because she is. Every experience you've survived has shaped you into someone stronger, softer, wiser. And while the world may celebrate youthful beauty, the kind of beauty you carry is rarer. It can't be bought. It can't be taught. It only comes with time, with grace, with choosing to rise again and again, no matter how many times you've been knocked down. That resilience, that soul-deep strength, it lives in your posture, in your energy, in your silence. There's nothing ordinary about you. You are a culmination of moments that tried to break you and failed. A story written in courage, patience, and self-reclamation. You've stopped needing loud validation because your life speaks for itself. And those who really see you, they feel the shift when you enter the room, not because you demand attention, but because your presence is undeniable. This is your season, not one to shrink, but to expand. Not one to question your worth, but to embody it. The beauty you carry is not passing. It's not seasonal. It's not based on a number. It's a reflection of the work you've done inside, the peace you've built, the love you've chosen to give, even when it wasn't returned, the standards you've raised, and the soul you've refused to compromise. You are not defined by age. You are revealed by it. Each year has peeled back a layer, revealing more of your essence, more of your power, more of your truth. And if the world can't see it, that's not your burden to carry. You don't need the world to see you clearly anymore. You see you. And that's more than enough. Because when a woman finally sees her own light, she stops chasing approval and starts walking in purpose. And that walk, that's what makes her unforgettable. When you stop trying to fit in, you start standing out in the most beautiful way. Not because you're louder, but because you're finally aligned. Aligned with your values, aligned with your peace, aligned with the truth of who you are beneath every label the world ever tried to put on you. And that alignment, that rare inner congruence, is what gives you the kind of radiance that doesn't need explanation. You don't just walk into a room, you arrive. With energy, with grace, with purpose. There's no longer a gap between your appearance and your essence. What people see on the outside now reflects the strengths, softness, and clarity you've cultivated on the inside. You've grown into yourself in the most powerful way. You no longer shrink to make others feel comfortable. You no longer silence yourself to keep the peace. You've discovered that your voice has weight, and you've learned how to use it, not to dominate, but to uplift. Not to argue, but to stand firm. That's what true beauty looks like when it matures. It's not decorative. It's influential. It's not just something people admire. It's something that moves them, challenges them, awakens them. You are no longer the woman who needs constant reassurance. You don't need someone to tell you you're enough. You know it. And because you know it, everything you do flows from that place of fullness. You give love without losing yourself. You set boundaries without guilt. You show up for others without abandoning your own needs. That kind of emotional maturity is rare, and when paired with your natural presence, it becomes a force that cannot be ignored. The world may try to celebrate only the youthful, the new, the flawless, but you have something youth hasn't earned yet: substance. You carry a history. You carry insight. You carry discernment that only time can teach. And that depth creates a beauty that doesn't scream for attention. It draws it. People are drawn to those who have been through darkness and still choose to shine. You are that light. Not because life has been easy, but because you've refused to let it harden you. Every scar you carry tells a story, not of weakness, but of survival. Every laugh line is proof that you've found joy even when life gave you reasons not to. And every moment you chose growth over bitterness, healing over revenge, peace over drama, that shaped the woman you are today. The woman who no longer needs to compete because she's already won. Not against others, but against every voice that told her she wasn't good enough, wasn't young enough, wasn't worthy enough. You've silenced those lies by living your truth out loud. There's something magnetic about a woman who's made peace with herself, who isn't trying to fix, change, or chase an ideal, but instead stands rooted in self-acceptance. That peace becomes her perfume. That confidence becomes her posture. That self-love becomes her presence, and it doesn't go unnoticed. People feel it in how you speak, in how you move, in how you simply exist without apology. You've learned that femininity isn't about playing small or pretending to be less than you are. It's about embracing your softness as strength. It's about holding space with compassion and conviction at the same time. It's about being able to nurture without losing your power. That balance, delicate yet unshakable, is what makes you captivating. And it's a balance that only comes with experience, with growth, with choosing to evolve rather than conform. You no longer live for the approval of others because you've learned that chasing validation is a never-ending race with no finish line. Now, you live for truth, for integrity, for alignment with your soul, and that shift has changed everything. You don't attract people who are looking for someone to perform anymore. You attract people who are ready to meet you at your level, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Because that's where you've risen to, a level of wholeness that radiates from every part of you. You don't need to be reminded of your beauty, you need to embody it. Not through perfection, but through presence, through how you carry yourself in moments of silence, through how you react when no one's watching, through the energy you bring into every room, every conversation, every part of your life. That is beauty. That is power. That is the definition of being a good-looking woman whose beauty has evolved beyond appearance and into essence. You've come too far to start doubting yourself now. You've overcome too much to play small. This is not the time to question your worth. This is the time to own it, to walk fully in it, to be the example the world needs, not of a perfect woman, but of a real one, a whole one. A woman who knows that her best years aren't behind her. They're unfolding right now, in every step she takes, in every truth she speaks, and in every moment she refuses to shrink. You are the evidence that beauty grows with depth, that grace becomes louder than glamour, that wisdom is the most powerful accessory a woman can wear. And the more you honor your journey, the more you realize you've never been more radiant than you are now. Not because you tried harder, but because you finally remembered who you are. When you finally remember who you are, everything changes. You stop settling, you stop chasing, you stop explaining. Because deep within you, something wakes up, a knowing. A steady, unshakable truth that whispers, I am enough as I am. And once that voice becomes louder than doubt, you begin to rise in a way that no external validation can touch. You begin to live not from pressure but from purpose, not from fear but from fullness. That's when your beauty stops being something you try to prove and becomes something you naturally exude. It becomes part of your breath, your presence, your essence. You've arrived at a stage in life where the noise no longer phases you. You don't panic when people leave. You don't break when life shifts. You don't beg to be chosen anymore because you've already chosen yourself. That quiet self-assurance isn't arrogance. It's earned confidence. Confidence that has been tested in silence, built in solitude, refined in fire. And now that it's yours, it cannot be taken away. This is what makes you stunning in a way that age can't touch and trends can't replicate. You've outgrown the shallow and stepped fully into significance. You are not the woman who waits for compliments to feel beautiful. You are the woman who wakes up and decides to be. You look in the mirror and see beyond reflection. You see evidence of endurance, of self-respect, of transformation. Every wrinkle, every curve, every freckle carries a memory, a lesson, a chapter of your becoming. That's not something to erase, that's something to honor. You no longer feel pressure to look young. You feel empowered to look real. And that realness, that's the new standard. Your power no longer comes from being seen. It comes from being solid, from knowing that you can stand alone and still feel whole, that you can be soft without being weak, that you can love others deeply without abandoning yourself. You've learned that self-love isn't selfish, it's sacred. And when a woman guards her heart with wisdom instead of walls, when she walks through life with discernment instead of defensiveness, she becomes a force, a light, a leader. You've stopped performing for people who don't even know your worth. You've stopped shrinking to make others comfortable. You've stopped editing your brilliance so that someone else can feel bigger. Now, you take up your space fully, boldly, authentically. And it's not about proving a point. It's about living your truth. Your presence is no longer shaped by the expectations of others. It's shaped by the promises you've kept to yourself. That's why you walk differently now. That's why your silence speaks volumes. That's why even your stillness has power. You've reached a level of growth where your peace is your priority, and because of that, your energy has shifted. You no longer tolerate inconsistency, manipulation, or small talk disguised as connection. You crave depth, purpose, honesty, and the people who are meant for you will feel that. They'll be drawn to your wholeness, your clarity, your groundedness. Because when a woman is rooted in who she is, she becomes a mirror, reflecting back to others what's possible when you choose yourself. You are the kind of woman who doesn't just inspire admiration, you spark reflection. You don't just turn heads, you turn minds, hearts, perspectives. Because what you offer is more than appearance, it's substance, it's experience. It's wisdom born of wounds that didn't win. It's beauty born of battles you never bragged about. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not your clothes, not your figure, but the way you carry your journey with such grace and courage that others feel braver just being around you. The world needs more women like you. Women who have nothing to prove but everything to offer. Women who know that their worth doesn't decrease with age, it deepens. Women who walk into every season of life with open hands and a full heart, trusting that they are never behind, never less than, never too late. You are not chasing youth. You are embodying power. You are not trying to relive the past. You are defining the future by living fully in the present. There is no age limit on beauty. There is no expiration date on impact. You are still unfolding, still becoming, still rising into your highest self. So don't hold back. Don't hide your light. Don't apologize for who you've become. Because the world may not always celebrate women like you loudly, but deep down it remembers you, learns from you, is shaped by you. This is your time to own your space without apology, to take up room with your truth, your voice, your vision. You've already done the hard work of becoming. Now it's time to embody everything you've earned. You are not less because of your age. You are more layered, more whole, more radiant, the kind of beautiful that cannot be defined by skin or numbers or trends, the kind of beautiful that leaves a legacy. You are the embodiment of a truth. The world is only just beginning to recognize. Beauty matures, it doesn't fade. Strength evolves, it doesn't break. You are not here to rewind time, but to redefine it. And every day that you rise with intention, every moment you choose presence over pretense, you become a symbol of what is possible when a woman stops shrinking and starts owning the weight of her becoming. You have reached a level where you don't have to chase opportunities. You are the opportunity. You don't seek validation, you are the standard. There's a glow that radiates from you now, and it has nothing to do with youth. It comes from clarity, from wisdom, from self-respect earned through every boundary you've set, every tear you've turned into wisdom, every moment you stood firm when life tried to shake you. You have nothing left to prove. You've proven everything simply by becoming the kind of woman who walks with purpose, speaks with depth, and lives with unapologetic grace. That presence, steady, grounded, bold, is the most attractive force in any room. Not loud, but undeniable. You've moved past the stage of trying to be chosen. You now choose yourself daily, not out of ego, but out of understanding. You finally understand that you bring value simply by being whole. Your energy is not available for games. Your time is not up for negotiation. Your worth is not something to be bargained with. You don't entertain what drains you. You don't explain what you've outgrown. You don't defend the peace that took years to build. And that silent strength, the kind that doesn't flex but simply is, makes you unforgettable. You've redefined elegance. It's no longer about wearing the right dress or walking a certain way. Elegance is how you stay calm in chaos, how you hold your head high when people try to diminish you, how you smile not because everything is perfect, but because you've found peace within the imperfection. Your elegance is your energy, and it doesn't fade, it sharpens. It deepens. It expands with every year, every experience, every lesson that shaped you. Let others chase the temporary. Let them measure beauty in numbers and trends. You measure yours in authenticity, in resilience, in how deeply you've learned to love yourself through every season. There's power in a woman who knows that her worth isn't in how she's perceived, but in how she feels.